All right, welcome back, fellow jazz bums. Today, I'm jumping on to do a live stream. We got the dogs barking. So remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel. Drop a comment in the description, not the description, drop a comment in the comment section on these 6 OJC titles that I'm about to get into. I thought this would be fun to do. And as I mentioned, this is a live stream, so this won't be edited. I'll try to keep things moving quickly, and we'll go through all 6 titles. I did send a link out to everybody. We'll see if anybody joins. And if you're in the peanut gallery, I will try to get your comments on screen. Please let me know what you think about the titles as we go through these. Okay, so OJC and 6 new titles. We got the OJC hype, the mega hype. Let me share my screen. We're going to start with the announcement itself. I'll quickly go through that, and then we'll get into all the titles shortly after. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this is the craft website. So for those who are new to OJCs, these are a reissue series, kind of rekindled from the 1980s as well as the 90s and even current day. There's still modern old OJCs that are currently pressed. This is a new kind of formulation where they have the nicer jacket, the glossy jacket with the tip on. They also press, let's see, where did they press at? RTI, so all pressed at RTI, and then everything's cut AAA from the source by Kevin Gray at Coherent. So that's a familiar formula that we all know. The Strata East reissue series is doing that, Blue Note's doing that, and the OJC are doing that as well. So they got 6 new titles. So there's 2 Bill Evans on Riverside, so we'll get into those. There's 2 VJs, one's a Lee Morgan and the other's a Wayne Shorter, so we'll get into those as well. And then there's 2 new jazz, a Ken McIntyre with Eric Dolphy, as well as a Benny Golson. So those are the 6 titles that are announced. I should mention the dates. So it looks like this first one here, the first couple are going to be Bill Evans, and they're going to start May. So next month, end of next month, the first title, and then actually the first 2 titles, the Bill Evans. And then June, there's going to be 2 titles. Okay, so they're doing it in batches of 2. And like I mentioned, 2 Riverside Bill Evans, 2 VJs, and then 2 of the new jazz. All right, before we move on, I want to make sure I talk about, sorry, my dogs are going crazy. So apologies if that's annoying. But I want to talk about the price point. So price point for these are going to be $39. I'm pretty sure you can find these in your local record store. So if you can, grab it there. You can also, I believe, get these on Amazon. So if you're Amazon Prime member, you don't have to go through shipping. Hey, Nick B. Hey, John. So yeah, so $39 for these. So they're not cheap. But yeah, sorry, these dogs are really annoying. And they just started doing this right as I went live. So let's fight through it. Yes, the dogs are digital. They're coming through digital. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first title, Interplay. I pulled up the Wikipedia page as well as the Discogs entry. So Interplay is an interesting title. Well, first of all, I feel like, let me just take a step back here. So I think OJC is going to release all the Bill Evans Riverside titles. There are 11 of them. They've released a number of them. I think the 2 Vanguard titles, they released the mono of Everybody Digs Bill Evans, and they've done, I think, some others as well. So if you're interested in collecting all 11 of them, I suspect they're going to get them all out there. So I think that's kind of a great service. I have the 80s and I think the 90s represses, a mix of the 2 of all 11. So I won't be getting these. I'm happy with those. And then I have some original pressings as well. But yeah, I think that we can expect Bill Evans, all 11 Riversides are kind of on the docket. That's my assumption. Yes, that's exactly right, John. The dogs are improvising right now. So let's get back to this first title. So Interplay, interesting title because it's not a trio. It has Jim Hall on guitar and then also has Freddie Hubbard. So the story well, let's take a look at the full lineup. So Bill Evans piano, Freddie Hubbard trumpet, Jim Hall guitar, Percy Heath bass, and Philly Joe on drums. So solid lineup. It's a well-recorded record. They're doing, let's see. So there's some standards on here. I'll Never Smile Again. this was released recorded in 62. So if I'm not mistaken, I think LaFaro, the bass player who was part of Bill Evans' trio, dies in 62. So this was not the first recorded thing Bill did after LaFaro died. Let me just make sure I got these dates right. Yeah, so Moonbeams was. So we'll get to Moonbeams in a second. So 62, Bill is still, struggling a little bit with the death of his, great bass player, LaFaro. When we spoke with Cecil McBee, he mentioned how LaFaro was a huge influence on him. And if you listen to those Vanguard sessions, you can hear how creative and innovative he was with Bill. So anyway, so this comes after that trio. And the story is that Bill wanted to have Art Farmer play trumpet on this, and Art was unavailable. So Freddie Hubbard, who was, I think, part of the Messengers at this point, was tapped to come and join them. And Freddie Hubbard, before this, he's still kind of new, but in the couple of years that he was recording up into this, he was on like Blues in the Abstract Truth. He had those Blue Notes like Open Sesame and Ready for Freddie, and I think some of the Messenger stuff. So Freddie Hubbard was definitely a young lion of his day when he came to record with Bill here. So this is a cool one. It's Bill Evans. Obviously go sample these and see if you like them before you purchase. And yeah, so John is mentioning the 45. So there is a 45 double LP. There's a 11 double LP or double 45 set by Analog Productions that I believe is still in stock. And I've heard that those sound incredible. So that is another way to get these titles as well. All 11 Riverside Bill Evans. So yeah, so that is the first one. I think a lot of people are going to be excited about it because I think a lot of people are collecting all of the Bill Evans Riversides that OJC is putting out. So this will be kind of welcomed. I did want to look at what the originals go for. I thought that could be fun. So, another thing. So if you look at all 6 titles, they were all put out between 59 and 62. So we are in a familiar sweet spot for a lot of jazz collectors, late 50s, early 60s. There's a ton of really great material. This is when stereo comes in full form. The kind of bop and post-bop things are happening. There's a lot of kind of creativity, a lot of great music happening. So all 6 titles fall within that 59 to 62 era. So that's just something to note. Let's keep moving. Let me just check the comments. Okay, so yeah, hold on, Trevor. We'll get to the Wayne Shorter. That one is very exciting. Okay, so let's keep moving. Or no, let's see what an OG goes for. So this is the 62 stereo first pressing. It looks like, the median is $100. So it's, not a cheap record, which is obvious. I mean, it's a Bill Evans Riverside. These things are collectible. There's the original label there. It's the black, stereophonic Riverside label, Bill Grauer Productions, Inc. And there are 8 copies available. Let's see what a VG Plus in the United States you can get for $100. So, it's not, so this is definitely a more affordable way. You'll be able to get, a pristine copy. So let's move on. All right, so the next we have is Moonbeam. So this is another Bill Evans title, 62. This is the title. So after LaFaro passed away, gets into the car accident, Bill Evans kind of recedes. He's not playing and he's not recording. He does come back this is summer of 62, and he records Moonbeams. This is a really kind of introspective. I mean, Bill Evans usually is introspective, but this is particularly, sad and introspective record. It's his first back, and, that is his mindset. He does follow this up with How My Heart Sings. It's a similar trio. We'll get into the trio in a second. And that is way more upbeat. But I think this one really captures, how Bill Evans truly feels at the time. So this is definitely a notable release as well. Moonbeams, Bill Evans, Riverside. So this trio is going to include Chuck Israels and Paul Motion. So Paul Motion's still with him. So Paul Motion was part of that Scott LaFaro trio. as well. So Chuck Israels comes in and rounds out the trio as they move forward. It looks like they're doing all standards except for Very Early, which is a Bill Evans composition. Oh, and also Person I Knew, which is also a Bill Evans composition. This may have been dedicated to Scott LaFaro, very possible. So this is the other title. So I think, it's solid to go with the Bill Evans Riversides. I think, they'll do all 11, like I mentioned. So these are the first two. Let me know for people watching if you're interested in these two, if you'll be getting these. And again, these are $39. So they're not cheap, but they're definitely more affordable than originals. And speaking of originals, let's take a look at the Moonbeams. So here's Moonbeams, Bill Evans Trio. Again, about the same median price point, around $100. There's 8 copies available, 6 in the United States. Let's see what a VG Plus goes for. So there's a VG Plus here for $240, and the VG is somebody's asking for $175. So not a cheap record to get in good condition right now if you wanted to pick it up. Of course, you can always wait and see if you can find a deal somewhere. Cool. All right, we'll see how long that lasts, and then I'll be back for that, I'm sure. Okay. All right, Trevor. Okay. So the next two I'm very excited about. So they're tapping into the VJ catalog, and I think this is something that I've been hoping for, that one of the reissue series would do this. And VJ isn't, from what I understand, they're not really known for jazz. However, they do have kind of a core group of like 10 to 12 records that are, outstanding artists during formative years. So we're going to get into 2 of them. They selected a Lee Morgan and a Wayne Shorter. So for people who are into kind of vintage jazz, these are, killers. So, and they're kind of interesting. Both of these are very interesting. The Wayne Shorter in particular is really cool, and there's a great story behind it. So let's get into Here's Lee Morgan first. So I think Here's Lee Morgan. Let's get down to the lineup here. So you have Lee Morgan trumpet, Clifford Jordan tenor, Wynton Kelly piano, Paul Chambers, and Art Blakey. So the first thing that stands out to me is Clifford Jordan. So Clifford Jordan played with Lee Morgan on a number of things. There's, I think, a Clifford Jordan self-titled, I think Tone Poet put it out recently. It's like 1500. I'm pretty sure Lee Morgan's on that. That's earlier, so that would be 59. This session is 60. And then Lee Morgan also does a title for Jazzland called Take 12, and Clifford Jordan is the tenor sax on that. And I know that they collaborate more than just that. But so these are artists that have worked together. They're label mates on Blue Note, and they know each other really well. And that Take 12, that recording was done after Lee Morgan kind of leaves to get clean, from what I understand. And he comes back, and I think he doesn't even have a trumpet. I think he has to like borrow a trumpet from somebody for the session. So he's really kind of digging himself out of a really tough situation, and Take 12 is the first title, and Clifford Jordan's there with him. So the bond that these two have developed over the years is notable. So they play really well. The VJ recordings, both of them are very well done. And I don't think there are some represses of the earlier stuff, and I'm sure that there's Japanese reissues of this. We'll take a look at what's available, but I'm just really excited about this title. And the lineup is just killer. So you got Art Blakey. This is Lee Morgan at this point he left the Messengers. This is after he leaves the Messengers, or right? No, I think he's with the Messengers, and Art Blakey supports him here. So you have just a killer lineup. Paul Chambers bass, Wynton Kelly piano. So you can't ask for a better lineup for 1960. And what are they doing here? So Terrible T. So they do a couple Lee Morgan compositions, which is cool. And they do a Wayne Shorter composition. So Wayne and obviously Lee Morgan are tight, and there's a story around that as well, which we'll get into in the next title. But yeah, this is a VJ title, has a great cover. This is the stereo version. So the thing is, when I was looking at Discogs, there were a couple interesting things I wanted to point out. One is the first stereo entry is 1960, and hold on, let's take a look at all the entries here. So US format LP. Okay, so mono and stereo come out in 60. It looks like I have a 1960 copy with this label. So this is after VJ had that red label, I guess. Let's see if there's the red one here. Yeah, okay, so this is a later VJ label. And let's see how much this goes for. So these are pretty expensive. A first pressing is $125 starting. Let's see what we have here. So VG plus 125, and then it goes up from there. The condition for everything here looks pretty decent except for the jacket. We got Felipe here. That's right. So Felipe did a 3-part series on Lee Morgan, and he'll get into way more specific detail as to the relationship between Lee Morgan, Wayne Shorter, all these guys. That, people love those videos. So check that out if you haven't seen those. We have WCB here. What's up, Chris? Happy I grabbed that expensive AC set, Cy. So Chris is talking about the Bill Evans Analog Productions Double 45 set, I believe, which was like $900 when it was repressed. So it was not cheap. And Steve is saying the same thing. Ain't that the truth? So yeah, so you're able to get these for a little more affordable at $39, and you can get them at $33 as well, which is cool. Okay, so yeah, so you have Lee Morgan here. So it's an expensive title. That's all I wanted to point out. And we'll get into the other ones. But, VJ has so many good titles. There's a couple Paul Chambers. There's The Young Lions, which has Wayne Shorter and Lee Morgan on together. There's a bunch. So they're fun to collect. And I was lucky because I started collecting them a couple years ago when they were more affordable than they are now, for sure. So it's great that they're reissuing these. I'm sure they're going to, sound great given, they're AAA and, Kevin Gray's cutting them. So these should sound really good. All right. What do we got here? Sorry, I heard VJ would grab players when they were in Chicago gigging for sessions. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that. I can't speak directly to how they contracted. Some people said that at the time they would contract the kind of lesser known sidemen of like the Messengers and give them leads because I guess it was more affordable to do that. I'm not totally sure about that, but I have heard things like that. That said, I mean, these two titles that we're going to look at are stellar, top-notch players on them. So let's go back to looking at this. So here's Lee Morgan. It was recorded at Bell Sound. So these do sound good. From what I remember, these are really well sounding records. Okay, next one, introducing Wayne Shorter. So this one I think is great. So Wayne and Felipe, if you're watching, keep me honest here. But Wayne, when he joined the Messengers, he was up in Toronto with another group. And I think Hank Mobley, was it Hank Mobley? Whoever was playing tenor in the Messengers at the time didn't show up. So Lee Morgan, I think, connected with Wayne and said, can you play with us? And Wayne did, and he basically became the next tenor player in the Messengers. During that tenure at the Messengers, Wayne broke out and recorded this record, his first lead record. So this is introducing Wayne Shorter. And let's look at the lineup here. So here you have Lee Morgan trumpet, Wynton Kelly piano, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb drums. Yeah, so killer lineup again. I've heard people say like, if these were Blue Notes, they'd be hundreds of dollars more. Well, if these were Blue Notes, they would be different because they'd probably have rehearsal time and they'd have Alfred Lyon being the producer and, helping with the sound of everything. So I don't think that's absolutely accurate. I do feel like VJ, both of these records do have a style that's distinct. These are not Blue Note records, but they are within kind of the same style. So these are going to be bop straight ahead sessions, and there is some variety within there. But, again, this is a 59 session, the introducing Wayne Shorter. So, so of the time, late 50s, modal, maybe just starting a little bit of post bop in there. And certainly hard bop is still around and kicking. And certainly with Wayne Shorter being part of the Messengers. So let's go back to that. So yeah, so Felipe is saying they're not at the same level as Blue Note. That said, nothing's at the same level as Blue Note, in my opinion. So that doesn't mean they should be dismissed at all. I think these are solid sessions. They're formative within each of these leaders' careers. And I think there's a lot to dig into and a lot to enjoy. And there's great stories behind them. So I think that, both these VJs, I'm very supportive of in their selection. I think these are killers. If I didn't have any VJs, I would definitely pick up both of these. Yeah. So yeah, Brooke. Well, Felipe, come on up. You can join us. We still have a couple more to go through. All right, let's keep moving. I think I wanted to show what this one goes for. Okay, this is what I wanted to point out. I got confused in the earlier one. So this is the first stereo entry on Discogs, and you could see that it's titled as a reissue, which I thought was kind of weird. So let's go back to everything, and we'll go to the United States. We'll go to format LP. Okay. So here you have first mono pressing 1960. Then here you have first stereo pressing, and it says it's a reissue, which it shouldn't. That's incorrect. That should be updated. This is a first stereo pressing with the stereophonic banner at the top. And these are the original stereo VJ labels. And again, the label that came before this was a red VJ label, which I think actually is cooler looking, but it doesn't matter. And yeah, so that's Wayne Shorter. And then there's the mono here. This is a repress. And actually, let's sort by, let's just take a look at the stereos. So there's 5 stereo copies. Yeah, and they all say reissue. This one says reissue. This one says repress. Stereo reissue. So anyway, so the Discogs is not correct. There has to be a first stereo before the reissue comes out. So yeah, so let's take a look at how much this goes for. So there's 2 copies of the original stereo, VG Plus for $76. That looks pretty good. That's a good price. If you are into collecting original first pressings, that seems like a pretty fair price for this title. Let's look. Oh, look, there's none have been sold of this. So this entry is just weird. I guess maybe the stereo is rarer, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for 1960. Only 20 people have it logged into their Discogs, and it has never been sold. So maybe that's why people are starting the price lower. But that could be something to pick up if you're into originals. Let's take a look at this one here. This one has the mono cover with a stereo sticker on top of it. It looks like a similar label. This is a mono label here. I don't see stereo, and it has VJ LP, so there's no stereo indication here, except for the sticker that they put on it. So this one, there's 2 copies. This has been sold. So I bet the mono is really kind of the more common one. You can get a mint one. This seems ultra rare sealed original for $100. Yeah. Okay. Well, you have to be careful with this because you don't know what's in there. And, I would definitely ask for pictures before purchasing that just to see if it matches with the sticker on here. Let's take a look before we move forward. Let's take a look at the reviews. Okay. So Billy Bird says good sound, quality vinyl, virtually no background noise. This is the reissue gatefold. Okay. Soundstage is very open. I think these were well recorded, so I'm not surprised this reissue sounds good to this person. Let's do the same thing for the Lee Morgan. Let's go back and see what the comments are. So if we scroll all the way down, people, stereo mastering. Okay, how does it sound? The mastering is okay. Okay, very nice separation. I bet these tapes not bad sounding at all. I think people are just talking about the specific pressings, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if the tapes for this sound good, because my original sounds very good from what I remember. Wonderful sounding stereo reissue. So they're talking about the reissues, the Scorpio pressing. Yeah. Okay. So I think these are cool. These are definitely worth checking out. And let's move on to the final two, which are new jazz titles. So I think it's cool that they're diving into the new jazz catalog. This first one is Gone with Golson. So this is Benny Golson. This is a Hackensack session, which I think is notable. So 59 Hackensack. So this is probably right before he switches over to Inglewood Cliffs. Roberto, a VJ label deep dive would be nice. Yeah, we could do that. Maybe on the Friday live stream we can go through them all. I don't think there are that many. Like I mentioned, there's like a dozen or so jazz titles, including two Paul Chambers, right? First Baseman, and there's another one with a stoplight. I think it's called Go or something like that. Thanks, Felipe. Hard record to find. Yeah, these new jazz titles can be difficult to find for sure. Okay, so let's look at this one. So it's 59 Hackensack session. So that's cool. You have Curtis Fuller. Curtis Fuller is very prominent on this, as expected. He's part of the quintet here. But you have, Curtis Fuller's trombone sound coming through. So if you're in the trombone and you like Curtis Fuller, definitely check this one out. Benny Golson's on tenor sax. Ray Bryant is on piano. Tommy Bryant bass. I don't know who Tommy Bryant is. Is that his brother? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. His brother Ray Bryant was a piano player. And another brother, Len Bryant, is a drummer and vocalist. So the Bryants were a musical family. So yeah, you have and Al Harwood rounds things out on the drums. Al Harwood, great, great player. So Benny Golson, let's take a look at his discography, because I think when it comes to his small group stuff that he leads, well, there's a good amount of it. Okay. So the Modern Touch, this has a great cover, this cover. And this was reissued on Jazzland with a different cover that is not as great. So I've always wanted to get a first pressing of this. I do have the other side of Benny Golson. Oh, and look, and that has, let's see, so it's a very similar, well, it has Barry Harris and Curtis Fuller. So I guess, that's notable because, they're on this title. So they're playing together a lot, right? So, they're going to kind of, that means they work well together, right? So they're playing together, they're tight. Jeffrey has the Jazzland. I think it's a pretty solid session. Let's go back. I want to see, what did he do before his lead record? So 58. Let's see what is side. Is there sideman stuff here? Where's this? Oh, got to go full discography. With the Jazz Tet 60. So is his first recording? Oh, here. He's on Jazz Sahib with Sahib Sahib. This title here, which I think is a pretty tough one to find as well on Savoy. And who's on this? Phil Woods, Bill Evans, Hank Jones, Paul Chambers, Art Taylor. So that looks like that could have been his first recording. And then, where's this new jazz one fit in? So Gone with Golson, New Jazz 59. So this is still real early in his career. This one here, New York Scene, this one's also been reissued on the contemporary reissue series that Acoustic Sounds put out. Okay. Okay. All right, let's see how much this thing goes for. Oh, and again, so this is going to be, in terms of form, it's straight ahead. There's some variety to it. Ballads, straight ahead swing. There's swing on this. I think this one, Jam for Bobby, I think this is a pretty upbeat one. They're doing Autumn Leaves. These are 3 Benny Golson compositions. So one thing that's notable is Benny Golson was a composer, and he left. I think he kind of left playing jazz to compose for like Hollywood. Correct me if that's wrong, but I think he was doing scores and things like that. So Benny Golson, one of the great jazz composers. And I'm assuming he composed a lot for the Messengers, although he was only on, I think he was with the Messengers for a short period of time. Let me know if you're in the Peanut Gallery. I think Benny Golson was on Monin and maybe another title, and that was it. I think it was pretty short-lived with Art Blakey. Okay, so yeah, Gone with Golson. Let's see what they go for. So we have one in Canada for 165. So it's like 140 US. Let's see, we got US 240 for a VG. So this is quite expensive if you want to get one right now. You know, these new jazzes are not cheap. And the thing about new jazz, the early pressing, so this is the first pressing, and you can see it has this deep groove here. And, you know, the rule is, and obviously there's always exceptions to the rule, you really want to get new jazz with the deep groove. The represses, let's see if there's a repress of this. I think there should be. So US repress. Let's take a look at the repress. So this one, see there's no deep groove here. So a lot of these with the new jazz with no deep grooves, they were pressed on vinyl that sounds somewhat recycled. So, you know, recycled vinyl, the noise floor varies. It could be very light and not a problem. And sometimes it's really kind of annoying. And I've had both of those instances. So with new jazz, I really just avoid anything without the deep groove just because I know there's a potential. And the thing is, these still get pricey. So it's not like these are cheap. So yeah. So anyway, just something to watch out for with new jazz. But you don't really have to think about that if you're going to get the OJC reissue, which is probably going to sound absolutely perfect. So that is a great option, and it's going to be cheaper as well. So yeah, and Al Harwood on drums. So Al Harwood, let's see. He plays with Horace Parlan. That's what I know him from. So Horace Parlan, he had a run on Blue Note that are legendary. And these are all, you know, very desirable original pressings. Yeah, these are tough records to find originals of. He's in Bluesette. This is one of my favorites on Savoy. This is one I expect at some point they'll reissue it, but this one is really in need of a reissue. There is a Japanese copy you can get, but for a US pressing, there hasn't been one in a while, and these are really expensive. He's on Grant Green. So you can notice like Stanley Turrentine, Ike Quebec, Horace Parlan, Grant Green. If you're familiar with these players, there's a certain soul style that they play in, kind of a swing soul. So that's kind of, you know, Al Harwood's, you know, a lot of his recordings are in that style. Lou Donaldson. So he's like, you know, that's pretty notable. So he's on that. So knowing that, and then also Ray Bryant. Let's take a look at Ray Bryant. I don't think I have any Ray Bryant records. The originals can be quite expensive. I think on Prestige. Where's his discography? Here we go. So Ray Bryant Trio on Epic, okay. With Kenny Clark, Ossie Johnson, Candido. Ray Bryant Trio. This is the one that is quite expensive. It's an early Prestige. Well, it's not an early 7000, but it's early because it's a 7000 series. 7098. And I think this one's really cool. So who's he playing with on these? So that was 59. Let's see. Oh, this is a solo, obviously. Ray Bryant plays. What is this on? On Signature. I've never seen this. Bob Thiel. That's cool. Oh, and Tommy Bryant again. So his brother plays on that. So they were playing together on a couple of these, including this Gone with Golson. So cool. Yeah, so definitely check this out. I mean, this thing, you know, this looks like a cool record. It's a Hackensack. Got Curtis Fuller and Benny Golson, right? And they definitely played together. Let's take a look at Curtis Fuller's discography as sideman. So with Art Blakey. So I don't know if Benny Golson's on any of these. Let's look at Benny Golson's discography. Benny Golson, discography. Oh, you got to go into his giant standalone discography page. And let's look for messengers. Okay, so with Art Blakey. Yeah, see, he's only on Monin. And then this is a soundtrack to a French film noir. And the same with this. Oh, no, what is this? This is a live concert. So I think there's a couple covers to this one. And I believe Sam Records put this out with a different cover. I think this one has a couple different covers depending on who issued it. All right, let me take a look at the chat real quick. How are we hanging in there, everybody? Again, this is a live stream, so if you're watching later, this will not be edited. We're just kind of going in and checking out these titles. I think, if I had to step back, like I mentioned, the Riverside Bill Evans, to be expected. They're just going to keep putting those out, and that's fine. People, are collecting those, and I think that's a fun thing for people to explore. It's kind of nice that you get them in installments, so you can kind of sit with each of them. And then they're doing the VJs, which I think is smart, makes a lot of sense. Lee Morgan, Wayne Shorter, and there's tons of other stuff. So it'll be nice to have a little VJ collection. I think that should be pretty cool. And then these new jazz, and I know that they definitely did the Mal Waldron Quest. That was one they put out, and that one got really good reviews. And I believe that was put out in stereo. The original was only mono. That's another thing, actually. These new jazz. All right, yeah, let's take a look at that before we move on. So let's see if these were put out in stereo. So country, US. So 59 Hackensack, that would be stereo. He was recording in stereo. There's two stereos. So the OJC CD was the only US stereo version. Let's get rid of the country. Is there an LP? So only the CD has ever been issued in stereo. So I suspect, just like the Mal Waldron, the Quest, they're going to use the regular mono cover, like the original cover, but I bet it's going to be stereo. And let me know if I'm wrong about the reissue. I'm pretty certain they put it out in stereo because it's a stereo tape. They would have to fold it down to get the mono, and I just feel like they're not going to do that. Okay, Jeffrey's saying it will be stereo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these new jazz. So that's like a notable thing, and that's been done before. So like our friend at Newland, there's a Newland label that reissues things, and he reissued a Ray Bryant, I think, on Prestige, and I'm pretty sure that was only mono. Tape is stereo, so he reissued it stereo. So it's the only time you can really listen to it stereo on vinyl, if I'm not mistaken. These new jazz, these are going to be the first stereo reissues done in this format, at least for Gone with Golson. The Mal Waldron was reissued in the early 60s in stereo with that like psychedelic cover, had a different cover. And that was a way you can get it in stereo, and a good price on that too. And I think it was also Van Gelder stamp. Okay, so let's move on to looking ahead. So before we get into it, I want to jump to the Discogs because I want to see this if this was only mono too. I think those new jazz were only done in mono, which is kind of an interesting thing. New jazz was an odd label in a couple different ways. Okay, mono, no deep groove. See this again. Okay, before we let's just take a high level look before we do a deep dive there. So looking ahead, this is Ken McIntyre with Eric Dolphy. So stylistically, this one is, I mean, I guess you call it post bop. It's not really straight. It does feel straight ahead, but it's done in kind of a, I don't know, in a post boppy, like just edging towards post bop. So Ken McIntyre and Eric Dolphy are kind of known for getting out there. So this was recorded in 60, and just a famous Eric Dolphy record, I think, Out to Lunch, I think was, I want to say it's 62. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 62. So, and Ken McIntyre let's take a look at his discography before we get into this title, because this is someone I have an inner city title by them, but I don't have much. Okay, so as leader, he has his first new jazz, Stone Blues. Let's just take a look at this one real quick. So 1960, released in 62. I wonder this layover, this 2-year gap. Not all new jazz is like out there for the time. Like when I say out there, I mean like a little avant-garde for the day. That's not the case. Sometimes new jazz reissued like Art Farmer, older stuff, so it's not totally just like one thing. But there was this gap here, and I'm wondering if Bob Weinstock, who was the producer and owner of Prestige, recorded it, thought that maybe it was a little too much, and then released it on New Jazz later. So I mean that is definitely what happened. But I'm just wondering what the thought process was, because a lot of these new jazz titles. Let's go back to the Benny Golson. I want to see what the discrepancy between the recording date. Where the hell is it? Gone with Golson. There it is. So this was 59, released in 59. So there's really it's pretty immediate there. And that's new jazz. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, new jazz and Prestige, it's, I don't know if anybody has any insight into the thought process, but the kind of the quintessential one is the Norman Grands with Norgran and Clef. And it's just like there is no kind of pattern as to why one title would be released for either of those. And with Prestige and new jazz, it's difficult to know, like, why was that Benny Golson not a Prestige title? I don't know. No clue. Stylistically, I feel like it could totally be a Prestige. He puts it out right away. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm not totally sure. And actually, take a look at this. Let's go back to the title here. So if we go to this first mono, one thing that's notable, it has a new jazz label here, but it says up here Prestige New Jazz. So right off the bat, it's co-branded with both labels. So that's kind of interesting. And fun fact, while I have all you guys, I have an old New Jazz 10-inch title, if I can find it. Yeah. So back in the day, when the LP was first made, Bob Weinstock put this out, I think of 78 material of Sonny Stitt, Bud Powell, and this is New Jazz. So that's the original New Jazz. So New Jazz came into form. I think they put out some Phil Woods and John Erdley. Obviously, this title here. And like all the Miles stuff was put out on Prestige as a 10-inch. But again, like there was New Jazz 10-inch and Prestige 10-inch. They were both put out. Some titles, like the Stan Getz, same exact title, and it looks the same, except one of them is New Jazz and one of them is Prestige. It's the same title. So I don't know what the thinking is for having both titles. If anybody has any insight, I'd be curious to know. But this is the original New Jazz title. I believe this is 1950. Or it's either 50 or 51. And that's the original label. So it was yellow and pretty, if you know, like the red early Columbia or the green Columbia label, like labels just looked very similar across the different labels. The labels of the labels looked very similar, just different color scheme. And yeah, even like, a pet peeve of mine while I'm on my soapbox, let me just remove this. There we go. So if you look at this label here, a lot of people, when they talk about 10-inch jazz records that are 33 RPM, they don't consider them LPs. There's like a misnomer that an LP is a 12-inch record, when that's not the case. You can see here, this has the LP logo. It says at the bottom, long playing micro groove. The LP just indicates that it's a 33 RPM record. And I think Columbia may have patented it, but everybody uses it. And if you look at 10-inch titles, just like this, long playing, so LPs are 10 inches, so 10-inch LP before they move to a 12-inch format. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I noticed that there. And I do hear people on YouTube and elsewhere not say that that just think LPs are 12 inches. Okay, let's get back to this. All right, so where should we pick up? I guess let's go back to Ken McIntyre. So Ken McIntyre, this is his first title, Stone Blues, on Prestige New Jazz again. So this is, you see, I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but this is P is for Prestige, and then the catalog number is New Jazz. So yeah, it's looking ahead. Let's see what this review here. So we have a 4.5 star by All Music. This early effort by Ken McIntyre, who doubles here on alto and flute, grows in interest with each listen, essentially advanced bop, slightly influenced by the new thing, music of Ornette Coleman. So yeah, so that's Ken McIntyre's first title in 61. Looking Ahead is the next one. So that's what they're releasing. And hold on. Did we look at the personnel? Okay. So that first one, he has John Mansbo Lewis. So Mansbo on trombone, Dizzy Saul on piano, Paul Morrison, Bobby Ward. Not too familiar with these players. And then when he does Looking Ahead, he does Ken McIntyre, Eric Dolphy. Both play alto, both play flute, and Eric Dolphy also plays bass clarinet. This is an Englewood Cliffs recording in 1960. So I bet this is going to sound spectacular. Englewood Cliffs was definitely an upgrade. I mean, there might be nuances for this being an early Englewood Cliffs, but there's, as much as I love Hackensack, Englewood Cliffs sound sometimes is just so incredible. I mean, just think of I know this is later, but just think of the CTI recordings and how crystal clear he was able to capture everything. Walter Bishop Jr. piano, Sam Jones bass, Art Taylor drums. Hey, Dave. All right.
Why are you doing this solo, man?
I just wanted to do it because it was announced today. I figured, why not? I thought it would just be fun.
I figured when I popped in, there'd be like 50 people here.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody's working or birthday parties, so thanks for joining. So before I jump back into it, they're doing 2 Bill Evans, they're doing 2 VJs, a Wayne Shorter and a Lee Morgan, and they're doing 2 New Jazz, Benny Golson and Ken McIntyre with Eric Dolphy.
Oh, cool! They're doing Benny Golson, with him passing away recently.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And where I'm at, I don't see his records pop up around here.
Yeah.
So that'd be one I'd be interested in.
Yeah. Did Benny Golson have any lead Blue Notes?
Oh, I don't think so.
Nothing
that comes to mind.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He definitely has a lot of lead on Riverside, and then obviously on New Jazz.
He might have been a sideman on some contemporary, maybe. No.
Yeah, well, he has contemporary the New York scene.
Okay.
Jeffrey saying no. It's Benny Golson. So he was on Monin. That may have been his only Blue Note appearance. That could be totally wrong. He might have been.
Jeffrey said no on the leading for a Blue Note.
Oh, and Argo, yes. Benny Golson has Free Jazz, I think it's called, on Argo, which has become a really expensive record.
You don't see it very often.
No. So we were just kind of getting to this title here, Looking Ahead. Do you know this title?
Yeah, Ken McIntyre. That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, so Ken McIntyre, I know he has a title on United Artist.
Mm-hmm.
And he has inner city stuff. Well, we were just actually looking at his discography. Let's go back to that.
McIntyre.
It's not too big.
See. I don't know if I have much of his stuff.
Yeah, so he has this one, Way, Way Out. Mm-hmm. I think this one's with a big group of strings.
Yeah,
I think it's a big orchestrated group. And then you see how it jumps from 63? There's like a 10-year gap here.
Maybe he was in the Slammer.
Maybe. He may have been, who knows what he's doing? He could have been composing in Hollywood. I feel like a lot of players took a stint like that. Benny Golson certainly did. Okay. So we have Looking Ahead. Let's take a look at how much an original goes for. This is expensive. It does have Eric Dolphy on it. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, with Dolphy on that and being is a new jazz. Yeah, all
yeah,
those new jazz originals have gone up
yeah,
significantly in the last 5-6 years or so.
yeah, and especially the first press wide deep groove here. That's the one you want to get.
Mm.
And yeah, the medium price is about 125, and you can get a VG plus 150. Some dimples on vinyl. That's just
Well,
that
new jazz,
yeah,
they're known for having pressing flaws.
yeah. So yeah. Um, so this is the final title. Now these are all like $40, and you can get free shipping, and they do stock them in local shops. So these reissues, I'm almost certain, you could ask your local if they don't have it to get it for you. So you can get it that way. And then you can get it from their website, but I think you have to pay for shipping. So that's probably the worst way to get it.
I'd love to have that. I've never found that record with Dolphy, and I try to get anything I can find with Dolphy. So that would be a really good one.
Yeah, that's a great cover photo too.
Yeah, oh yeah. Most of those are fantastic. I think it's probably the same artist that did all of them.
I just recently got, I'll show
Same
this.
photographer.
I recently got, this is I had the classic series, but I recently got this Out to Lunch Eric Dolphy, and I just revisited it.
How early a press are we talking here?
Oh, this is Liberty. So this is probably 67, 68, something like that.
Yeah, I'm holding out. I have a 75th
Okay.
that I've been holding out to find. If I'm going to upgrade, I'm just going to go out and get an OG mono.
Woo!
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, those are pricey, I think.
Well, I'm getting ready to find out because the Voice of America collection is going up Saturday here in Charlotte. Again,
oh, right.
And that's in there.
Yeah. So yeah, you gotta send me pictures when you go. I want to see what he has. So Dave,
I'm
is
going to
going
try to get up there Saturday. I might not make it. We'll see, because I'm going to be in line for RSD first, early as piss.
Dylan from Noble Records is putting out kind of some insane jazz from the Voice of America collection. So there's a video that's been circulating, and it's incredible what he's been able to acquire through that collection. But I wanted to jump back to the reason why is, so Bill Evans' Interplay has Freddie Hubbard on it. And I've been getting more and more, like, Freddie Hubbard's on Out to Lunch as well. So again, these records, these 6 titles, 59 to 62. So it's 4 years that all of these 6 are encompassing. And there's a lot of overlap between the players and, who's available to play. So it's a fun, this is a fun era to jump into. So I think I'm going to actually end the stream now, but thanks for coming and checking this out. I know this was a little impromptu, so thanks for dealing with me, especially when my dogs were barking in the beginning. I think these are a great selection. I mean, I feel like OJC is an exciting series. They have access to some of the best classic jazz catalogs, and they're digging in. Those VJs are great selections. They're different. A lot of people don't have them. And I think that's exciting, and I think people should check them out. Dave, any final thoughts?
I'm very happy to see them put out the new jazz titles, because those are all, like we talked about, gone up, the food chain for price.
Yeah, that's one thing, that's what we looked at, all the Discogs prices, and I think all these titles, if you were to get early pressings, they're all expensive. So I know, I'm particularly interested in original pressing, so I just wanted to check that out for myself. And there's obviously, some of these have been reissued before, and there's good reissues you can get, especially the Bill Evans in particular. But yeah, the VJ and New Jazz, these are, great opportunities to get these titles. So that's it. Dave, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys Friday.
Cool. I gotta check out your RSD video you did with the boss.
Yeah, so we uploaded a video. Zev Feldman, I was unable to attend that, so Chris and Felipe interviewed him. They went over all the jazz titles, plus there's a Patsy Cline that I think they speak about, And I think they teased a Charlie Rouse record.
Ooh,
I think so. Check that out.
coming down the pike.
There's some cool tidbits in there, so definitely want to check that out. And Record Store Day is coming up, so I mean, this is a good way to prepare and figure out what you want to get.
Yeah, I'm going for the Nathan Davis. That's my number one.
Which Nathan Davis is it?
It's one of the ones from France. Shit, I can't even think of the dang name now. Anyway, it's it costs for one trash. You're gonna still throw $300-400 at the problem. So you know what I mean? Like Happy Girl.
Yeah.
That record is, if you want a VG plus near mint, I think I've seen some go for $800 and up.
Yeah.
This to get a $30 reissue's great for me.
Yeah, I have here. Let's take a look. So this is bonus segment here. So Happy Girl first pressing French. Are they using this cover? Do you know? Is this the cover? They're using so maybe this isn't the first pressing. Yeah, it's expensive. There's none available, and previous sales have been multiple hundreds of dollars. It might be a German.
This is the one.
Okay, so
they're using this cover. That's the record I've been trying to get for a long time. The Saba.
Okay.
So yeah.
And this is pretty expensive. This is even more expensive. And let's see, there's one copy, poor condition, and they're asking for over 100 euros. So yeah, it's a hard record to get. And who's on it with them?
Is it a German press or?
This looks like it's German.
Okay, yeah, the Saba's German, not French.
Yeah, Woody Shaw's on it with Nathan Davis, so they played a lot together.
Where was it recorded? Because that group played together a lot in France.
Where it was recorded at Saba Studio.
Okay.
Which I guess is, let's see. No, I think it's probably German. It does. Yeah, German studio. There was just a French reissue. That was what I pulled up first. This one.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's all it was. But yeah, no, it's German. Cool. And then they're also doing the Pharoah Sanders Strata East for Record Store Day.
Oh yeah, Sifo Zam.
Yes, so they're doing that, and that I believe is limited to Record Store Day. I think it's Record Store Day only.
Really?
Yes. So I would line up to get that if you're interested in it.
It's the Dolphy series.
I don't know how many they're pressing. Yes, the Dolphy series. Is that an original?
No, this is actually I got this at Record Archive in Rochester. It's the first ever reissue, and even then it was $50.
Does that have the blue labels, like the sky blue?
So I've had this a long time. It's Pure Pleasure.
Oh, okay.
In a few years. This sounds great.
So are you interested in upgrading, or not upgrading, but getting the other copy
for RSD for this? No.
Yeah.
No. The Nathan Davis is the big title. Now I heard some of the Kenny Dorham. I thought it sounded incredible.
Yeah. I have the files for Kenny Dorham,
and I don't have a lot of Kenny Dorham, so that one, if it's there, I might grab it.
Yeah.
Because I think that one's not going to be quite as expensive as the triples, like the Mingus and the Mingus and the other would probably be $80, 80 plus.
Yeah, I was lucky. I got the promo Mingus, and it's very good.
Yeah, it's triple LP, right?
Triple LP, yeah.
That was Ken's favorite of the bunch.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I don't know what the price will be, but yeah, it's triple LP, so it's.
I think I saw $78.99, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be good. There's a second Mingus too. There's a Mingus. Crap, I can't remember. It's got a green cover. Monterey.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Record Store Day in Connecticut. Red Scroll does Record Store Day in Connecticut, so if I go out, that's where I'll hit up. Last time I was there, the line was really long. Like,
you sent me a picture of that line, man.
It was like it's a giant parking lot, and from the door to the street, the line was. And I was there there was like a Pharoah Sanders 7-inch. And that's all I wanted. And I asked, they were like, we have one copy. And I was like, well, I won't get it. So I didn't.
Yeah, they only had 2 at Repo, 2 copies, and I got 1. But I was in
somebody,
line at like 4 in the
Big
morning.
Ian sent me a copy, which was really nice of him.
Yeah, they didn't get where I go. It's a very small shop, and they get very limited quantities. The only thing they're getting a lot of is going to be like the Allman Brothers and stuff. You know what I mean? or Kiss or anything Kiss related. They're going to get a lot of that. They get very few. They have me fill out like on the list what to order for me, because most times they weren't going to order it. So, I put mine, what I'd be interested in, because they know I line up there every time, because Lunchbox, people start putting the tents out Thursday for their line.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I may go check out Record Store Day. I'd just be curious to see what the crowd looks like, honestly, if it's just how things are.
This is one of the best diverse lists that I have seen since this has started. I actually, when I first looked at the list and I wrote, I always just write down anything that kind of interests me and then I'll look into it further. There were 19 titles that I wrote down. Usually I only write down about 4 or 5, and then I whittle it down from there. There were 19, and I had to cut it down, like money wise. I cut it down to 6, and then I might even cut it down to 5. But there's 19 titles I wouldn't mind having to listen to.
All right, I got a jet. Thanks for joining, Dave. Really appreciate it, as always. Right. And yeah, if you've let us know what you think about these OJC titles, leave a comment below, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.